So I'm going to very quickly put my thoughts down here. I'm going to open up my notes app and put this in my Divine Mart document. Thoughts from going on a walk. Going on a walk today. Going on a walk at 4:44 p.m. Auspicious time of change. So here are my thoughts. I've been doing a substantial amount of reading. Doing a substantial amount of reading, more substantial than I've ever done before, and I followed Jordan B. Peterson's writing guide, which really works. Kind of. Mostly the best tip is that you should reflect, you should participate in your reading. That is, reading essays, nonfiction, writing that contains assertions. And the important thing to do here that I haven't done before is to look away about every paragraph and say what I think the paragraph means. Now you don't, I've been tying myself in fucking knots. I've been wrapped around the axe handle over reading and how to effectively read and whatnot, but essentially all you need to do is read so that stuff sticks in your memory. And fortunately for us, memorable reading is pleasant reading, and it's also meaningful. Reading is memorable when it's fun to meaningful. So you have nothing to fear from effective reading practices, that is. And I have some remarks on meaning. So, for example, we have this paper from the Canadian Journal of Psychology, Outstanding Contribution Series. And now here is a sentence. The levels of processing framework proposed by Craig and Lockhart, 1972, presented a general approach to memory research that has been widely influential and the subject of intensive critical scrutiny. Now, this is great. Now, what I'm not proposing when reading is that you should pause like every sentence and repeat verbatim, or even try to repeat verbatim what you just read. Nor am I suggesting what I am suggesting you should do is say something in your own words, and that's not even close to verbatim, actually, but say something that makes sense and is, at the very least, related to what you just read, and preferably intends to extract the gist of your personal interpretation of what it means. And fortunately for you, you don't have to tie yourself in a philosophical cocksucking knot in order to understand whether what you're saying is meaningful or not. Because when you speak out loud, your organs will tell you whether what you're saying is bullshit or whether you care about it, whether it'll give you a sense of the truthiness or falsiness, so to speak, of what you're saying. It'll tell you essentially if what you're saying means anything at all. You'll know immediately. You can take this, you can rely on essentially the grace of God here. And what you should do is find an appropriate place, a rhythmic interval ideally, to speak out loud. Now I like about a paragraph. About once a paragraph. Generally the end of the paragraph. But don't get too attached to only extracting gist at the end of the paragraph. Anytime you have an interesting idea, anytime you feel like speaking, anytime you really want to speak, you should. I was going to say something wants to be said, because I feel like that's a better relationship to have with your words, but that's kind of some hippie bullshit, so if you find something to say. Can I zoom in? No, I can't. What I can do is increase font size. No, maybe? Oh my goodness. We're going to pretend this didn't happen. Find something to say. Okay, good. So you're doing that. You're extracting the gist once a paragraph. Here's why this works. You have to read every sentence in the paragraph. Okay, you do have to contend with them. But the goal is not to repeat the sentences or the paragraph verbatim. Don't do that. It wouldn't be. There's no point. The point is actually to forget the paragraph. The point is to experience forgetting. And reconstruct, you're going to construct your gist. And it's going to naturally be influenced by what you just read because you were paying attention, right? Almost scratch. So I think effective reading then is actually more like forgetting. The goal is not to remember the whole essay, because eventually the point of this is you're reading the whole article, levels of processing, a retrospective commentary. You're going to read the whole article, and at the end, why are you doing this? Well, this is going to increase your actual understanding. First of all, this verifies that you are understanding anything. You're extracting some type of meaning. And secondly, you are making some memories for you to pull from later when you make your summary. Now, I'm calling it a summary, but it's really more like a short essay. The essay is just a review of everything important that you remember from your reading. And this, you can't skip this. You can't skip intending to summarize. Because generally, what gets remembered only gets remembered because it's important for the future. Otherwise, there would be no point. If whatever you're experiencing right now is only pertinent to right now, and you don't think there's anything important about this current moment that you're going to want in the future, there's no way you're going to remember shit. You won't remember anything. And the only way to verify that you've remembered text is to write something yourself, or speak it out loud in any case. So do intend to summarize. And once you've gone through the whole thing with this extremely simple process of about every paragraph, extracting the gist and speaking, you don't have to write down. Jordan B. Peterson, optionally, after you've spoken, says you should make a note. make a note of what you just said. So in his version, you're actually remembering twice per paragraph what the paragraph means. Oh, and if you're going to do this, you absolutely should avert your eyes from whatever you're reading to make sure you're just examining your own memory. If you're trying to like rehabilitate your memory after, 10,000 years of smoking weed and watching reels, this is not optional. But if you're pretty much okay, then you can take it or leave it, because it will slow you down a lot. If you think what you're reading is really good, then absolutely write it down. But for, something you're not quite sure of, you don't have to. But yes, summarize. And that's pretty simple. Just summarize what you remember. And that you should write down, or summarize it, write it down, or talk about it with somebody. That's probably even better. Who is interested? So I think that about does it for effective reading. I've been wondering, whether we can use this for fiction or poetry, but that feels a little more slippery to me. So I'll have to get back to you on that.